The writer, I think, was always looking to use kind of jokes and humour that's not been used, certainly not been used a lot in other things.
I just think it's very humorous.
It's very clever stories, the way they sort of come together at the end.
I just think they're a good match for each other. They all work really well together.
Something different, isn't it? You're going to see a show, and obviously the big pull is it's free.
It's nice to see how it's done, isn't it, really, I think?
I really like seeing the way that they do it.
It tends to be a slightly more adult, mature sense of humour than you get probably from most.
It's actually funny.
So we are here because the coupling is now becoming very, very, international, and so all over the world they know about coupling.
Steam works up the top of the house. And what normally happens, so when the script, for instance, this script would arrive, which normally is sort of, 9 o'clock on a Sunday night or something, I have to go and read it immediately. I don't have any of that, because we're married, obviously. I don't have any of that sort of, well, I'll get back to you in a few days. It's sort of... So then he has to move away from me about at least 2 floors so he can't hear me laughing. And then I have to lock myself away, and then I read it that way. And then I give him any notes, which actually aren't that many, really. He's sort of a very good... he delivers a shooting draft, really. Other writers, you get, they want to have comments and they'll change it. And his is pretty much ready to shoot.
Writing an episode never flows, I have to say. Not in comedy, because comedy you have to be funny 3 times a page, in theory. I mean, maybe once every 3 pages is how it turns out. But, so it's always absolutely contrived. And finding the start to an episode, I find really, really hard, because you're trying to get from a cold start to a gag really quite quickly.
I do laugh out loud, a lot. And I always tick it. I tick everywhere where I've laughed. And then he marks me, so then he goes through going, oh, you didn't find that funny then. Or you didn't understand that then. So then he marks me, and then he goes and changes anything. And then Mum reads it, and Martin Dennis reads it.
It's unlike an American sitcom in that we're very rarely gag-driven. There are no jokes per se, very few of them. In fact, when we do them, we usually cut them because they don't work. The laughs from our show, I think, are always about context, about what's happening, who said it and why. So we can never find a 30-second clip of coupling for a show that is funny, because it's never funny out of context. It's only funny once you've seen all the other things that are going to happen.
When we're all happy that the script's right, then it gets distributed to all the departments. And then all the departments then go and look at it for their different worlds. So obviously the design will work out which new sets they've got, and then they'll come back to me and tell me they haven't got any money left, and let me try and work out whether we can adapt one of the other sets we've already got. Costume go and then look at it and see what they need to do. Obviously this series we've got the whole Susan pregnancy to do, so they've got various different bulges depending on what the script is. Then we need to cast any new characters, and then I have to go and do all the deals with cast, and then all that information also gets given to the costume and to makeup and stuff, so they can get hold of them.
Steve, I just want to go home sometimes.
Of course you do.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to keep her on.
At the beginning, you're writing for imaginary people. And at the very beginning, you're writing for yourself 6 times over, even when it's girls. So that's where you start. You don't have any different inflection. You just got yourself.
Oliver?
Yep, that's the one.
Science fiction Oliver?
What's he like?
As if in answer, there's a tremendous thud off screen. One of the bar doors is swinging. A few people have looked round. Oliver pops to his feet.
I'm okay. I'm fine. Misjudged the door recoil. Craziness.
Once the actors turn up, there's just realities about who they are, what age they are, how they look. I didn't know they were all going to be gorgeous, so that changed things a little.
Bloody things. Hey! What are you doing? Sorry, mate.
That's your way, that's the...
Sorry. What are you doing? There was an accident, sorry.
At the very, very beginning of the show, when it was a much more talkative rehearsal room in the first year, and even the second. I used to be talking all the time, and Martin and I would be discussing all the time, and Sue and I and Martin would be discussing all the time how we're going to put this show together, what it's meant to be like. Of course, we've all got the Bible in our heads now, and it happens quite easily. Martin and I and Sue always seem to have the same view of it. It's not hugely different, and it's not like handing something over at all. It's like the three of you sort of loiter around it for the week, and it's very collaborative and very, very friendly. And Martin will be righter than me when it comes to how we're going to make this visually, and unusually for a director, because directors are frequently crap when it comes to the gags. Great at the pictures, great performances. Rubbish when it comes to setting up and paying off a joke. That's the thing you most often have to explain to a director, is how the joke works, bluntly. Not with Martin. Martin is a real joke boffin. He really knows how a gag works. So I've never really had to say that, which is tremendous relief. He knows how it's meant to work, how the rhythm of it, what we need to see first, all that stuff.
This is our kind of prep area. We can get things from the dresser behind you. Just this thing, yeah.
Okay.
So
like that.
It's your party. What are you doing?
Sorry, what is this?
At the read-through, mainly, what I do is I look at the timing at the end. My biggest thing at the moment these days in Series 4 is saying, oh, that's 32 minutes long, that's not going to do. And then I would normally give out the cuts and cause the actors to cry like girls, especially the girls, because they hate it. They hate losing lines. But this week it's 26 minutes, 26:45, it's spot on. So I can go home and get on with episode 6, which isn't written yet.
So we've got the script Friday morning, and then we all come into the rehearsal room with the squeakiest floor in the world, and that's really where we rehearse. I mean, in America, I know a lot of them, they always rehearse on set, and they have the set stand up for 7 weeks or whatever it is, or how many. But they do a lot more in America. They do at least a run of 13, which means that you can amortise some costs, which means you can afford to keep the sets up the whole time. Because we only do 6 or 7, we can't afford to keep the sets up all the time. So that's why we rehearse in the squeaky floor place. So then Mary marks out, she's got all the plans of the sets, Mary, our stage manager, and she'll mark out with the tape on the floor. So the bar will be one colour and Sally's will be another colour. And they'll talk about what that is, and this will be your kitchen, and then we start blocking it, really.
There's a song and it's been distributed? We were drunk. Look, we were drunk. It was late.
What that means is that Martin will run through with the actors scene by scene, and they'll all be looking at their scripts and working out the moves. And then gradually, as the week goes on, they'll get finer, and then they'll get to the point where they know that they will always reach this table by the time they're saying that point, or they'll always pick the cup up at this point.
You've got to get more relaxed about this kind of thing. No, I am relaxed about it. It's fine.
Comedy isn't about timing. Comedy requires timing. I mean, it requires it. If you don't have it, it's dead. But it's not about... I mean, it's a necessary but not a sufficient condition. Yes, you do have very strong views about how long someone should pause, how long they should think before they deliver the moment. Not just about the joke, but just about the realism of it. Because quite often, if you're not doing gags, which we're not really doing, people saying funny things, you really have to believe and understand their delusion, what it is they've misunderstood. You have to get that, to tell the story really well. A lot of the time, you're actually trying to say, forget the joke, just play the moment. And that's what, again, 4 years ago, what we were saying all the time is, forget that it's funny. Just play it for real. And the audience will supply the joke. Because that's what you're always trying to do. You're trying to get the audience... You don't want the joke to be told to them. They provide the last link themselves. They think, oh my God, he thinks she's in the cupboard, or something like that. So they provide the actual moment of laughter. Most laughs are a kind of moment of realisation, a kind of shock on the part of the audience. It's trying to lead them to that point, and then they get it themselves, and then they laugh.
My life shuts down. I mean, physically, it's not a very demanding job because in rehearsals we can do half days. But just because we're not only in the rehearsal room for a half day doesn't mean we're not working the rest of the day on our lines and our gags and reading it over and over and over. And you do take it home with you. And it's like the way the week is worked out technically is quite demanding. Like we start a new script every Friday, and we have to learn it by heart by Saturday. So bang, there's Friday night gone, which is a big social night, for a lot of people. Well, Friday nights are totally out of the question for us. And you come to make trouble. So of course we always get together on Friday nights, but
We're going to have sex before the show tonight or after?
During. Oh, I've given away the plot. You do kind of... I do. I'm not very good at it's different. Well, Ben's got a family, so he has to multitask. But I kind of... When we're doing coupling, that's it for me, pretty much.
And then by Saturday afternoon, Sunday, Martin can really do a whole camera script. And he'll work out on which shot he'll use which camera. It's not a system they use in the States at all. They don't really have camera scripts in that way. So then Martin will do his camera script on Saturday. And then Sunday, they all have the day off. Monday morning, they rehearse again, and then we all come in at 12 o'clock for a producer's run. So it's really just a final form, but it's still in here, and there's obviously still bits missing, which we won't see until we get into the studio. And then on Tuesday, we go into the studio, and we normally have a tech run in the studio, which means that all the cameras and all the sounds and everybody else, they watch it and work out where they're all going to be and what problems they might have.
Tim?
Yeah.
Ben's here somewhere.
Chaz, you're around here, sir.
I think we wanted to have 6 attractive people, and we obviously got them. But I think they're naturally attractive. We don't, we try and dress them in clothes that they actually could wear into a bar or going out, rather with friends. So they do wear T-shirts and jeans. And I think the trick really for wardrobe is obviously to spend a lot of money on something that then looks as though our artists have dragged it out of their cupboard. When they go shopping, they now draw lots to which girl goes first. Because what used to happen was one of them would buy a pair of boots, and then the other one the next day when they went shopping would go, "Oh, I want those pair of boots." And Caroline would have to go, "You can't have those because Gina's already got them." So now they just draw lots to see who does the first bit of shopping. But I think Caroline, has done a great job in making them look glamorous but relaxed.
Now the characters are pretty well established in their look, and they're all fairly sort of attractive young people, aren't they? It does pull them professionals, and they are quite specific. So although it looks like they could just pitch up in their own stuff, it's we can certainly tell the difference, can't we, Ella? So, and it gets them into the character because they are quite different than their characters they play actually. So it's quite a big part.
There's an actor and actress look as well, isn't there? So if they were wearing the right, they do kind of have a look off duty. So if you were, if they all pitched up, it wouldn't really work, would it?
Not really, no. Or they might be very similar actually if they all turned up in their own gear too. They've got to feel comfortable in them and at ease in them, but they've also they've got to feel happy with them. But they've also got to play the part of their characters' stuff as well as specific things like obviously Sarah being pregnant in this to have the maternity clothes obviously, which she wouldn't have herself. So you've got specifics like that. And we had a lot of fantasy scenes in this too, haven't we? Sort of flashbacks and fantasy things, involving sort of hire costumes and things too. Went to Angels, where big hire company, and Ben came up for a fitting. Kate came up for a fitting, and he had his full armour on, and she was in a medieval gown, which I think they both enjoyed wearing, didn't they? It was good fun, looked very good. Yeah. But it seems to be on this series. I've worked on the other 3, and there hasn't been. Stephen's written a lot more fantasy things into this one than he has before.
The freedom in the storytelling really sort of happened by accident. We didn't really intend to get there. I was going for something quite straightforward at the beginning of the show, but then we did an episode in the first series where half of it was in Hebrew, and there was a reverse reveal with the languages swapped around, and it was very, very popular. So we thought it was obviously a thing that was working for coupling to do slightly mad things to the storytelling. So we try a couple of times a year and do something slightly odd, dream sequences, split screens, out-of-sequence storytelling, misremembered flashbacks. And it just seems to work for this show. I think it's partly because the subject of the show is so tiny, a very ordinary relationship. There's nothing really spectacular or different that happens to these people. So you're finding sort of quite epic, ridiculous ways of telling an ordinary story.
So it's Susan that's pregnant, and she's first episode. I don't think you register she's pregnant, and then we get the 3 types of pregnancy padding from the sort of 2 months, 4 months, and this is her final one, which is a bit bigger tum for her because Sarah's very petite. So this actually looks quite good size on her, doesn't it? It's quite a full tum. We'll be wearing that for the next episode.
Felicity.
Oh, there she is. There she is. She's just having a little bit of a sit. Oh, she's eating her sweeties again, sorry. The sets normally go up on a Monday. And then they light it. So they have a big lighting grid, and the lighting director has a lighting plan, and he works where all the lights should be. So that all happens, and I never ever see that, obviously, because I'm here. But it all looks wonderful when we turn up. We turn up normally about 9:30 on a Wednesday morning. And that's when all the cameras are there. And then this is now when we do the camera blocking all day.
And in 3, 2, almost open, ready? 2.5, nearly there, and action.
So they've all got their camera scripts. They all know which shots are supposed to be theirs. And you really run through. So the first time they run through a scene, it will probably look horribly wrong. I mean, and that's where you think, oh, no, that wouldn't work on that shot, or that wouldn't work on that camera.
225 on Monday.
Ideally, I mean, I did do the camera script, but that's right. That's a basis for negotiation. I have a rough idea of how I want it to look. The camera script should tell them. But there's always going to be a better way of doing it on the day, because we're working in a rehearsal room in the middle of nowhere. We're using bits of furniture that don't look the same. You know, the set's not the same. So when we get here, start to put it together, if a camera can offer me another shot that's better than the one we've plotted, I would always take that. And ideally, they should be offering that all the time.
So that camera blocking goes on all day. It should stop at 4:30. They should then go into makeup. There should then be a dress run. We've only had one dress run, I think, the whole last series. And we've already had one this series, so whether we get one this week, I don't know.
Here we go. Shot 2, 1, 2.
Right now, there's a whole thing going on in there which you don't get on a movie or a film television series. It's how we're going to make this show in 2.5 hours in front of an audience of people who like seeing sitcoms. How are we going to do it? How's it going to be fast? Now, a lot of it is about when do we put the sofa in, when do we take it out? Hugely complex. How am I going to get the coverage on, because it's multi-camera and all that. It's an immensely complicated thing that sitcom directors know about and other people who don't direct sitcom don't know about. You know, I think it's absolutely true. You could take a sitcom director and say, make a movie, and he'd be able to do a decent job. Take the most prominent movie director in the world and say, make a sitcom, and he'd wet himself.
To tell you the truth, from my point of view, the camera blocking, I find a bit tedious. I have to watch it because the chances are we're not going to get to a dress run. So I have to watch it in case I think actually in the end they've got the wrong shot on something, which is very, very rare, especially with Martin.
I'm not sure how much I do enjoy really doing the really tedious parts. And parts of it's like going back to school and doing physics and working out angles and things like that. I mean, I love working with the actors and trying to make it as funny as possible.
I think that's the biggest surprise that actors have, is that it's not just about being creative and truthful. It's about hitting your mark, and that's very dull and very technical. And I think as you get more and more experienced, you cease to find it as much of an imposition. You just understand that that is part of the craft.
Multi-camera is an odd kind of a beast. You know, a single camera, if you're doing a film or a play and you're all on location, every shot looks exactly how you want it to look. Multi-camera is compromise. You've got an audience there. You have to be able to shoot scenes in one go. You've only got 4 cameras, 5 cameras. You can't get all the angles you want. So you have to do a compromise, and that's the downside of doing a sitcom as opposed to a drama. The upside, of course, is that when you're doing it and you have a live audience, the reaction is fantastic and the artist's performance rise, and you get immediate feedback and kudos from getting all the, hopefully, hilarious laughter.
I find these days quite handy because amidst all the technical stuff, it's easy to forget what you're doing and what your character is and what the story is, and also what your lines are, you know. So it's a mix to this day. It is frustrating sometimes, but it's useful and it's fun. Sometimes it's not fun. But I tell you what, on the night when we come to record it tonight, if you haven't really paid attention today, you're sunk. Because the cameras are rolling and their audience are up there, and you think, oh, what did I do? I can't remember what I did because I was telling some stupid story to someone at that point, and you kind of forget what you were doing. So it pays to kind of pay attention.
It's definitely part of this process, and I know it sounds a bit much to say that, But inevitably, you are sort of going through this moving, talking, speaking thing, and it's like sort of trying on a jacket for the first time and making it fit, and you're scrunching it up, and you're making it your own. So, although it is boring, and I do find it boring, I also know that something's sort of going on, and by the time we get to tonight, to doing it, it'll all seem very comfortable and familiar to me, and nothing's going to come up and pop up out of the blue and surprise me. It's just going to be, I know exactly what's happening, and I'm used to it. I've done it enough times now.
It's good to be prepared, so that when all these external demands are made on you, it freaks you out. It really can freak you out, especially as it's coming up to performance time. And yet you've still got to be able to, no matter how freaked out about all the technical problems you've got, and we have to wait for laugh cues as well because it's live. So there's all sorts of things you're juggling which are purely technical and very, very dull for the performance, but they're absolutely essential.
A lot of performing is technical. Singing a song is very technical. Doing a dance is technical. You see someone doing a sword fight in a movie, that's technical. So part of your machine is an ability to take on the kind of technical side of it. And I think, Series 1, it was much harder to get that information of I've got to be an inch forward here and I've got to be 2 inches back on this shot. But now we can hear it once and get it and know that night that, we have to be an inch forward here and 2 inches back there. But I don't think it takes away from it feeling like acting, and it doesn't take away from it feeling creative, because there are other parts of the week where we're purely being creative, like day one in the rehearsal room when we're blocking it. That's pure creativity. It's just that today is the technical day.
It's going from 243B to 245.
Angie's a gallery PA, which actually they're sort of a dying breed, because they were being trained at the BBC and they don't really train them anymore, so I don't know what's going to happen when they all retire. She's just God to me, really. I mean, for a start, what she does is she always keeps me up to date on what the timing is. And she's very good at estimating times of certain things. She'll also, if we have a lively shot of clouds or something, she'll be the one to go off and find that and source it and clear it. She'll clear any music that we need to use. She's also the one, when Martin does his camera script on Sunday, he then faxes that through to Angie on Monday morning. And then she turns it from a handwritten camera script into this great big camera script. As you'll see, it's a very different one. It's got lines and it's got cameras and numbers, and then she does all the cards. So all the camera boys have their own cards. Again, this isn't a system that's used in America at all, and it should be. It's a very good system. The camera cards really are sort of distilled down versions of the camera script. So camera 3, for instance, will only have his shots. Or her shots. And so it will. That one would say shot 46, 2 shots. And then the next one of his might not be till shot 55, which may still be 2 shot. Or it'll widen, so at least he knows where all his shots are. And if he knows that the next one is then going to be a close-up, he knows that between that shot and that shot, he's got to go in and reposition for the close-up. So they all have their cards, and they've all got that. Then she's up in the gallery, and then what she's doing is talking to the camera people.
At speed.
And really Peter, who's the vision mixer next to her, about the shots and who's on what.
And then 3 on 2 next.
Shared joke that I'm not part of.
You are.
The 4 on 3 next.
You're the butt.
The 5 on 1 next.
For a moment, that was going to sound
next.
better.
She's always calling ahead, so she's always calling the next shot out. So you'll hear the scene the number, like shot number 45 on 3 next, which means that it's shot 45 on camera 3 next.
Well, we've got various shot sizes that the director has asked for. We then want to make sure that everything cuts together, so we need to get together with the rest of the crew to get the shot sizes correctly. An over-shoulder 2 shot is an obvious example that from both angles, favouring you or favouring me, has to match. So we have a facility on these cameras where we can look at the other cameraman's shot on these controls here, and I can then see what size of shot he's got, see whether his shot works or whether mine's a better size and my shot works, and then by negotiation make sure that they do match and the director's pleased with the result. Because this is a zoom lens, It's very useful to be able to cut the lens up into various old-fashioned fixed lenses. So we have a thing called a shot box where we can set various lens sizes to aid our shot matching when we're at opposite sides of the set. It's very much a team effort. There's no particular stars amongst us lot. The stars are the other side of camera. But very much a team effort, and we're translating what the director wants to see into a good, polished and finished result.
Throw them away, actually. Bloody fakes. Whoops.
I mean, Martin spends, during the day, he's down on the floor a lot when the camera blocking's going on. And then he'll normally go out to the gallery and see a run in the gallery.
At first, I think you're really insecure, and where's the director? What's my direction? Whereas now it is like a shorthand. We know if there's a really big hiccup or he's got a problem or a puzzle that he can't work out, he's going to come down.
We've had him for 2 or 3 days in the rehearsal room with us, next to us, breathing down our necks. So we've had our fair share of time with him. And to have him on the studio floor, yes, maybe I'd prefer it, but this is what I'm used to. This is what I've grown up with. So I know that there's going to be a bit of a gulf between us and him on the studio day. And you just get used to it. And it might seem strange in a way that he starts talking to people like the actors through the floor manager, which is Julie. But you see, she's been doing 4 series as well, and she, again, is very, very good, but also knows how to exactly interpret what Martin's saying to the actors. And they've been speaking to Martin all week, so, you know, if Martin sort of says at the end of a run, well, that was a bit lethargic, wasn't it? She will know a nice way to say to them, Martin says, could you just pace it up a bit next time? The floor manager is the lifeline between the actors and the director who's in the gallery. And she's essential. Well, she, in our case, Julie, is essential. So she really needs to be able to listen to you and communicate with your director and pass back information. And fortunately, in our Julie, we've got a Giddon.
Sometimes concentration lapses a bit, but it's really down to me to keep the energy going, keep them laughing, and then bring it down to a working level when we have to do it. And, you know, it's difficult for the whole crew as well. If you think in this studio and the other rooms provide, there's 35 people all listening to what's happening, and you can't concentrate for 14 hours a day. So, you know, we have a good laugh when we need to, but then as soon as Martin wants to start rehearsing properly, I then have to have a bit of order. Sometimes it doesn't quite work. I have to shout a bit, but eventually, you know, we have a good working relationship. As you see, we do get on really well. The cast know all the crew, which is great. They know all the boom ups, the cameras, the lighting guys. So there's always a good rapport between everybody, and it's a nice family working atmosphere. It's the 4 series, and it's the same people for every series, so it's a family. You have to be very good organiser. You have to be able to. I have to schedule how long each scene takes, how long I think it's going to take, and try and keep to a schedule on a daily basis. So you have to be somebody who likes to be organised, who doesn't mind being shouted at, who doesn't mind giving instructions. So you have to be quite individual. I started out as a PE teacher, so that gives you a clue to how I got here. And from a runner, then I just stepped up to running on the floor for a floor manager, and I thought, I can do that job. And and here I am 20 years later.
In television, you don't do your own makeup. You always have a makeup artist to make you look gorgeous. It's part of the deal.
It's a bit like the Soviet Union. We're just trying to spread the work around.
Just makes them feel nice. Like, we've just washed Kate's hair, and we probably spent about an hour blow-drying it.
Yeah.
And now another 3 hours straightening it. We're like psychiatrists, actually, I think.
But
we should have a degree in psychology more than makeup. Makeup's a smaller part of it, really.
Makeup is definitely where all the gossip is. If you want to find out anything about anyone.
Yes, it's very we like a gossip, and we like a little chat in here, don't we? We like to look at all our things and check what we've been doing during the week, and
also, if we ended up doing our own makeup, it would be a hideous mess most of the time, wouldn't it?
I'm glad you said that.
We'd all be different. We'd be very different styles and far too much.
We control it, I suppose, because we say, no, that's not really you this week.
False eyelashes.
I think, no. I don't think you should do it quite like that. And there's continuity as well. You've got to always, watch out for continuity. And people might go off and have their hair cut mid-week, but then they're supposed to look like this for the show, so you've got to make them aware that that's a big part of it. We haven't changed them, really. I mean, they have odd different haircuts and different clothes, but really, essentially, they're not that different from their own characters, really. But obviously on big period things, you know, people are. You have to put them in wigs, they look totally different.
Ben Miles.
Ben Miles in a wig, yes. Where's that picture of him there? Yes, he had to have a wig on to look like a medieval knight. There he is. The makeup is really not much different to everyday makeup. Slightly more powder maybe than you'd use on everyday makeup, but really it's very, very similar.
On a Wednesday night when we shoot it in the gallery, there'll be Stephen, and then me, and then Angie, who's the PA, and then Martin Dennis, and then Peter Phillips, who's the vision mixer, and then Beryl, my mum, and then Joe, the production manager. So that runs all the way along the back, and then we have all the monitors in front of us. And that's all open mic, so if we talk up there, all the microphones, everybody downstairs where the earpieces can hear what we're talking about. We're all looking out for different things. Booms, shadows, shooting offset, words wrong. Or sometimes just knowing they've done it better. I mean, they could do it perfectly fine and go, they've just done that better in rehearsals, let's just go back and do it again.
I find the studio now is absolutely bloody terrifying because I'm utterly powerless. I'm just sitting in the gallery, hoping, waiting for the audience to hopefully laugh, knowing that actually the studio audience's reactions are going to be different from the home audience's reactions anyway. But nonetheless, you can't help it. You're the guy that wrote the gag, and you want it to get a laugh. I've had so many experiences where I've realised that, you know, our most popular show will be the one that had the least studio laughter, that I know it's not relevant, but I'm sitting up there, and what I do during the night is I write help repeatedly in the back of my script.
And we wouldn't need the blonde wigs.
Really exciting. Every time I walk onto a film set, I'm still so excited to be there. I mean, yeah, and it won't ever go. I know it won't. It's thrilling. I'm so proud to be a part of it. And everybody's job is fascinating if you're a geek like we are. So, you know, to watch and learn everybody's job is always going to be fun.
There's an adrenaline rush on the night, which is incredible.
Gina Bellman, Kate Isaac and Sarah Alexander!
You've got the audience pouring in. I don't know, everything about it's just really exciting. It's like a first night of performance. And also, you've got to bear in mind, we haven't heard any laughs for a few days because, you know, this morning we did a read-through, but that wasn't the first time we read the script through either. Do you know what I mean? We read that through a few weeks ago. So, and sometimes you forget what's funny during the week, which actually is also why I tick all the laughs where they were, because it means that if people start losing faith in things, which they don't now so much, it's full serious, but they start losing faith in things and, oh, it's not funny. You go, no, it was funny because we laughed, because I got a tick on it. So it's just hearing that first laugh from the audience again is very exciting.
Comedies with studio audiences are more popular. I have absolutely no idea why. I've argued against it myself, but they are more popular. Yes, you get a kind of freshness and sharpness.
I know. I want a bed you can find without excavating through a pile of soft toys and cushions. Why do they do that?
And it does tend to sort of freshen it up, make it more vigorous. It does mean it's a sort of hybrid between television acting and theatre acting. The danger is always, and it's happened on previous shows of mine, is that you get some very accomplished theatre actor and he's given a tremendous performance all week. He goes in front of the audience and he starts shouting because he smells the crowd. He wants to entertain them, and you say, forget them. The camera is there. You just have to move your eyebrows a bit.
It's a really funny thing. In my first year, I hated them. I hated the audience. I was so nervous, and they got in the way of my acting because I couldn't forget about them. I was just sort of thinking, oh my God, there are hundreds of people out there, and you know, I was automatically as an actor, you sort of want to play to that. But over the years, you learn, and they are essential for a sitcom.
At this point, I think we could do it without an audience because we know the rhythm of the piece so much. But it's been practice that's given us that rhythm. So, when we do that, we do a few scenes on the pre-record days when the audience isn't here, because the studio is a certain size, it can only fit a certain number of sets. So if we've got a lot of sets, we have to shoot a couple of scenes the day before. And I think in the beginning we all found those scenes quite difficult to judge, because you have to judge where the laughs and you have to leave a gap. Whereas I've noticed, this series, 4 years into it, we all have a rhythm, we all have an insight, we have a little telepathic rhythm of how long those laughs. We can judge it now, I think.
It does amaze me that a lot of previewers and reviewers don't actually know that it's in front of 250 people. You can't add laughs onto a show. You don't really know where laughs would be, because actually 250 people laugh in very different ways. There's a dawning laugh when they're suddenly realising something. There's a rolling one. There's a shock laugh. There's all kinds of things. They really are they have really different feels to them.
Canned laughter doesn't really exist. People don't really do that, or at least in the UK they don't do it. I mean, if you see a show on the telly in England and it's been recorded, or in Great Britain in front of an audience, it will have been recorded in front of an audience, in front of these guys. 350 people come in and they laugh. That's the way we do it. I mean, you might have to tidy something up. If you've gone for 25 takes on something and the audience have stopped naturally laughing, then you might use a laugh from an earlier take. But by and large, the reactions you're hearing on screen are the actual reactions of an audience. Sometimes they're too loud. Sometimes audiences don't like it at home, but it is a real audience. Yeah.
I mean, when you get into an edit and you dub it and you're going between, say, take 1 and take 6, say, you haven't been able to get one right. Now, the audience won't be laughing on take 6 because they're really quite bored with seeing the same thing over and over again. That's when you put the laugh on. You go and put the laugh on that you had on take 1. Or, if take 1 was too long, and sometimes if it's a really big laugh, it's just too long, you then would go and get a smaller laugh, rather than leave people hanging around for ages.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, welcome to the stage your warm-up comedian, Mr. Rob Rouse!
We have a warm-up. He's a new one this year. We had somebody for the last 3 series. And we have a guy called Rob, who is... He's very funny, he's great, so he won't be doing warm-up for long, I don't think. So he comes along about 4:30 in the afternoon in the hope that we're going to do a dress run, so he'll be disappointed, obviously. So we let him read the script, and then I have a bit of a chat to him about what the problems might be, what he should tell the audience about the story, what he absolutely shouldn't tell them. Basically what will happen is every time we stop filming, he will come on and entertain the audience and tell jokes. And he's very good. He talks to the audience a lot, and he's just very funny.
Basically, if you really concentrate, the powers of evolution might allow you to evolve really long necks that you can peep out round the corner and watch the scenes down there. Anything you can't see will come up on these monitors here and here and here, and those little things dangling down that look like little kind of monkey willies, they're microphones to get your laughter. And you may have also noticed a few other people filming us this evening, ladies and gentlemen. They're making the DVD today. You're going to be, as your coupling fans, you're going to be on the DVD extra. Yeah, so no chewing, it makes you look common, right?
This week I think there'll be quite a lot for him to do because we've got a dinner party. We don't like to do that sort of pretend thing when you've only got people on 3 sides of a table, so you can shoot it from the other side. So we do actually put them all around the table, which makes it a nightmare for Martin, obviously, because he has to shoot all the fourth wall, which is obviously where the audience is. He shoots all that on the Tuesday. And then we don't use that on the Wednesday, but then he'll put it in the edit. So that will be the fourth, the other couple that probably aren't saying as much. But also what that does mean, so that we can see what they are saying, Martin has to keep moving them around the room, getting things. So it's a nice week for Martin, and probably a good week for Rob, the warm-up.
Basically, I get the crowd kind of G'd up and excited at the start, and then they're using for quite a while, because often we start filming about 7:15, and that can go until 10:30, 11 o'clock sometimes. And I have to kind of prevent them from running to the toilet, leaving for their trains, and I have to keep them generally entertained, like when they're moving the furniture around and kind of finding out whether they need to retake scenes, stuff like that. And I have various methods of doing that, and basically I just do loads of stand-up, basically, keep them entertained. Yeah. They don't know quite how long they're going to be sat down for when they come in, so there's a balance between kind of laughter and bladders and deep vein thrombosis that has to, well, I'm constantly thinking about all the way through the warm-up, just to check I don't have any. If people die, then I feel bad. The great thing about warm-ups is that at 8 o'clock they come in stone cold sober, they've been stood in the cold, they've not had a drink, then you've got them for 3 hours. And I love the challenge of that, it's brilliant, and you can just try out loads of stuff and kind of work on your techniques and just work on your material and improvisation, all those kind of things. And it's, on the other side of it, it's good that, you know, the people in the production company see you being funny, and hopefully, if that leads to more work or a part in something, or whether it just leads to more warm-ups or just people kind of saying, I really enjoyed it, it's cool, yeah.
So when we finish the night, what we end up with is a problem. Angie will then give me the running time, which is normally far too long because it spreads during the night a lot. And then we go and edit it, or Martin starts editing it on the Monday afternoon. Because what we've got take 1 was great up until that point, and then that got wrong. So then they went on to take 2. But then he might use a reaction from another camera to join those 2 together. And he might want to put some reactions in anyway. Certain things we haven't bothered to do on the night, but he's got on other cameras.
We work quite swiftly on this production. I will be editing this show on Monday. Monday coming with my editor. He will get a rough cut together for me in the morning on Monday. I'll be rehearsing the next episode at that stage. Monday afternoon we'll go in and I'll go through it, and by the end of Monday evening we should have it edited roughly as we want it. It then has to go through dubbing. And
it's time for the show now.
Oh, thank you.
So
sorry, I see disturbing you. So 1 day's editing, offline editing, which is on the computer, not actually using proper tapes. And then we have probably 1 day to dub every episode. And then we'll do some grading and tidying up. So largely on this, it's quite swift, the post-production. It's not an endless process. So we edit and dub as we go along. So in a couple of weeks' time, this episode will be finished.
Hopefully by the second week, we've now got a show that is to time. And then the next thing we do with that, it then gets conformed into nice pictures, because that's always a slightly rough picture. And we grade it. And then we dub it. And the dubbing really, it's more, you might put the sound effects on of certain things. We might have some music in there, some music things, which we've got our composer to compose. We send him the rough cut and we say, can we have a bit of music there, or a bit of music there? And just smoothing over all those joins, really, because you've got different takes. And then we put the titles on. And then that's it. Pop the logo on the end and the BBC, and hopefully the finished article.